Awesome. Well, how is everyone going this morning? Are you going good? Excellent. So the parents in the room, did you survive the first week of school? I think I did. One of my children, who will remain nameless, was trying to convince me on day one that they needed a rest day. Because apparently the holidays where we didn't actually do a lot was too much for them to bear. And they were like, it was, but how can I cope today with school? I need a rest day. And I'm like, you've got a long time to go, honey. So I wonder which child that was. Awesome. But yes, it didn't happen. I'd like to make it very clear. So, but I actually don't like having to be up ready at a certain time. And school lunches, I just don't like school lunches. What do you feed them? My kids don't like sandwiches. You can't have, I as a kid ate peanut butter a lot at school. You can't do that because you can't have nuts so it's just, it's hard to think of what you can eat. But that's okay. Awesome. So how good was seeing everyone's gardens growing and how they're going? I'm very impressed, guys. You've done a great job. And it keeps reminding us about the year of growth. It keeps reminding us to be prepared for growth this year. Now, you don't need to put up your hand to this question, but are there areas in your life that you can feel that you've been growing in this year? Is there areas in your life that you feel that you're different in? You're stronger, bolder, more faith-filled? I really actually feel that I can sense in this church that there has been a change this year, that you can actually feel this shift that is happening, which is absolutely awesome. We have had some absolutely incredible, challenging messages taking us to the next level in our faith this year. It's just began a shift, which is excellent, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future. Well, today's message I want to share with you actually came from my son, Oliver. You see, a few months back, I was joking with him saying, do you want to speak at church on Sunday? And he was like, I can. And I'm like, which he actually would have. Honestly, he's got such a kind heart. If he is just whatever you need me to do, Mum, I'll do it. If that's going to help you, I'll do that, which is awesome. But I said to him, so what would you speak on? And he took a little breath and then he goes, stuff. And with that, this message just downloaded my heart. And I literally said to him, that is an incredible message because you could talk about this and this and this and this and this. And he just looked at me and went, Mum, I think you need to speak on this message at church. So I have permission. I have literally stolen his topic, but he didn't mind. So that's all right. The only one stipulation was I had to tell you that it was his idea. So I've done that, so we are right. So today we're going to talk about stuff. You see, our life is filled with stuff. We eat stuff, we worry about stuff, we do stuff, we collect stuff. Our house is filled with stuff. We watch stuff on TV, we look at stuff on Facebook. The media reports on stuff, we learn stuff, but how do we separate the stuff we need in our life and the stuff that is actually holding us back? Our daughters have a habit of finding the most random things, putting them in a bag, and then shoving them in a cupboard or a drawer. Now, I think ultimately what it actually comes from, well, one thing, when mum and dad ask them to clean their room, it's quicker just to shove things in a bag and put it in a drawer than to actually put it away. But two, which I'm not really sure if it is, but in their head they think it is. And two, what they do is they like playing games and they like, we're going on a holiday, so let's pack all of our stuff. And so this piece of paper is our clothes and this is this and this is this. But then they don't unpack it afterwards and then they just shove it in a drawer. And over the holiday, we're really noticing that when we asked them to clean their room, they kind of got to the point that they were struggling to clean it, that their room was just on that semi-level of clean. It wasn't clean. So during the holidays, I decided that Mum needed to attack their room. And I didn't actually let them in there because I knew that I wanted to attack their room. So I literally went through cupboard by cupboard getting rid of stuff. 2 bins full worth of stuff. And it was just ridiculous. I can't even explain what half the stuff was, and neither could they. So much stuff. I spent hours dealing with all this stuff so that we could get their room clean. This random stuff they had in their life was making everything cluttered, stressful, and it was even actually overpowering them. The more I dealt with the stuff in the kids' room, thinking, what on earth are they keeping this stuff for? And where did it all come from? The more I thought about what stuff are we actually keeping in our life? I'm not talking about paper, rocks, old field days brochures on farm equipment, or even old wrapping paper. I'm talking about the stuff that happens in our life that we hold on to. I'm talking about the stuff that we carry with us. You see, my girls needed some help to get rid of the stuff, so they had a place to start. So today, together, we're going on a journey to help get rid of stuff in our lives. Stuff in our lives come in all shapes and sizes. We go through stuff at work, stuff with friends. We grieve stuff. We go through stuff with our family. We worry about stuff. We have fears about stuff. We get hurt by stuff and just general life stuff. We deal with stuff every day. Stuff, and more stuff. A lot of the stuff we forget and move on, but a lot of the stuff we actually take little parts of it and put it in our life. Some of the stuff we take on, it's no big deal. We learn that we don't like turnips or eggplants. I decided during the holidays that I would experiment and see if I could make an eggplant taste nice. I put Parmesan cheese on it. I baked it in the oven. The Parmesan cheese tastes good. The eggplant tastes disgusting. But I did do, what was the other thing? I did do something similar with, zucchinis. And they actually tasted really, really good. They were like, even the kids liked them. The kids were trying to, because Chris doesn't let the kids tell me that my food tastes not nice. So the kids were trying to be polite with the eggplant. It was funny because I'm like, this stuff is disgusting. But I didn't want to say that, so anyway. This tastes good. Anyway, I'm sure people like eggplant, but I apparently do not. But other stuff we take on is deeper, like hurts, disappointments, fears, emotions. And most of the stuff we take on, we don't even realise that we have. And sometimes we won't even realise the stuff that we have the stuff until we are sensitive in a particular area, or we overreact, or we have voices of the past. When something happens, we have a voice that someone has spoken us over the past, like we're a failure, or well, you never amount to anything, or whatever that voice is. All these things have been caused by stuff. And all that stuff carries weight. Every day, every year, it builds up. If I was to ask you guys right now, what's something that has happened to you in the last week, the last month, that has affected you? Each one of us will be able to think of something instantly that comes to mind, and that is actually stuff. Stuff that we hold on to that weighs us down. The weight of disappointment when we get passed over for that job that we know we deserve. The weight of hurt when we get into a fight with someone, maybe a spouse or maybe a parent. The weight when friends let us down and we feel hurt and lost trust. The weight when we feel our life spiraling out of control and nothing seems to be going right. The weight when we feel like a failure. The weight of fears of medical diagnoses. the weight and anxiety, the weight of fear, apparently that one had dirt on it, the weight of just life. And if we're not careful, very quickly, this burden can come too much to bear. Now, Keely, can I please borrow you? All right, so Keely, what I want you to do now, for the record, Keely is going to be running around the church. Don't stand up to go to go out. At this point in time, you might run into her. All right, Keely, I want you to run around the church. Great job, Keely. You're doing awesome. I wish I had a blue ribbon because you just run. So is that pretty easy, Keely? All right. I'm not even sure if you're going to be able to carry this, Keely. All right, Keely. Now, I'm sorry, Reeve. I think you're actually going to have to help her because I do not think... Are you going to? I don't want you to hurt your back. Is that going to hurt your back? I think she deserves a really, really big one. So, Keely, with being completely honest, let's get that off your back. Okay, I survived. Did you survive, Keely? Because that was heavy. All right, Keely, if you were completely honest, which one of them was easier, without the bag or with the bag?
Without the bag.
Right. Now, imagine that she wasn't just carrying this bag around the room. Imagine that she was carrying this bag every day, every night. When you're sitting at dinner, when you're playing with hanging out with your friends, when you're even trying to sleep at night, when you're even in the shower. You know how showers make you feel refreshed, but you're actually still carrying this weight all the time. When you're on a holiday, when you're at work, every single second of every single day, carrying that weight around. Now, if I said to you, do you want to carry this bag around? You would go, no way. But yet when it comes to the stuff in our lives, we do it without even realising it. But you see, we were never meant to carry that weight. That weight stops us from that weight causes fear, unforgiveness, hurt, stress. It even has the ability to cause us to become physically sick. It stops us from living life in abundance. This weight is heavy, and weight comes from all this stuff. But we actually don't have to carry this weight. This weight is not a rite of passage of being a human, that because we're humans, we go through stuff, we then have to carry the weight. That isn't actually the case. We don't have to carry our scars to show what we've been through. We actually don't have to do that. And we have someone who actually wants to carry the weight for us. When Jesus died on the cross, he died so that we could live in freedom and abundance. He took our shame, our despair, our hurt, our lacking, and he paid the price for it all. In John 10:10 it says, the thief come to steal, kill and destroy, but I have come to give life in abundance. In Matthew 11 verse 28-30, come to me, all who laboured and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowing in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. As we begin to let go of the stuff and allow Christ to take our burdens, we can rest and have freedom in him. When God designed us, he made us in his image, but we're actually not clones of God. We're not God. And when God designed us, he designed us to have a relationship with him, to trust in him, but he did not design us to carry the burden. That's God's job. And we need to allow him to do that. It says in Isaiah 46:4, I have made you, I will carry you, I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. We don't need to carry the burden, he will carry us. You see, when we... This bag is so going to break. Actually, on a side note, when I did this, a shorter message, but for the youth, and when I put it in a bag, and when I grabbed it to pick it up, the bag actually broke because it was so heavy, which, yes, I'm like, yeah, that proves a point. Awesome. So you see, when we give our stuff to God and replace it with stuff, God, when we bring fear, he brings calm. When we feel worry, he brings peace. When we are broken, he brings restoration. When things are hopeless, he brings hope. When we don't have enough strength, it's okay because he does. When we can't let it go, he brings the freedom. And what goes from a heavy bag too heavy to carry, the burdens become light and become freedom. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. We actually don't need to be ashamed about the stuff. We don't have to hide it. And we don't need to carry it. We need to allow God to be enough, for his power is made perfect in our weakness. We get to boldly, strongly, confidently walk in his strength, in his life. This doesn't mean life will be perfect and stuff will happen. And sure, we do actually need to process the things. It is okay to go through times when you are grieving things or processing things, or you need healing for things. It's okay to have emotions. God designed us that way. It says in Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under the sun, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search, a time to count as lost, a time to keep, a time to discard, a time to tear, a time to mend, a time to be silent, a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. There is a time for everything. But while we're going through those times, we actually don't have to carry the weight. We can allow God to carry the weight, and we can allow him to come with us and help us through that journey. We don't have to do it on our own. We need to allow him to bring our peace, our hope, and our comfort. Psalm 55:22, cast all your burdens on the Lord, and he shall sustain you. He shall never permit the righteous to be moved. Isaiah 41:13, for I know the Lord your God will hold you with the right hand, saying to you, fear not, I will help you. John 14:27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give with you. Do not give as the world, I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your heart be troubled, and do not be afraid. Verse after verse of freedom, hope, and truth. One of my favourite verses in the Bible is actually John 8:32. And you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. God's word is truth. And when we know his word, we take hope in that word, believe in that word, it brings freedom. That word has power to take away burdens and to bring life. And I just love that. And doesn't it make you just want to devour his word and his truth? It's a truth that can only be found in his word. It cannot be found on Facebook. It cannot be found in the media. It cannot be found through friends. It cannot be found through reading self-help books. It can only be found in the Word of God. When we are struggling and when we are battling, we're able to take hold of our thoughts and replace it with His Word, bringing freedom into our life. Jesus died on the cross and overcome sin and death. Came all of the weight of this world so that we don't have to carry the stuff. By what He suffered, we have been healed from our stuff. 1 Peter 2:24, He Himself bore our sin in His body on the cross so that we might die to sin and live for righteousness. By His wounds we have been healed. What stuff do you need to let go of today? What stuff has been holding you down? Today is the day. Let's do a reset. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41:10. You don't need to be brave enough. You don't even need to understand what all the stuff in your life is. You just need to let it go. I can guarantee you that with my girls, most of the stuff they got rid of, they didn't even know was in their room. And this can be the same with us. I can guarantee that we all have stuff. And even while I was writing this message, God revealed things to me that I needed to let go of. Over the last few years, our family has just had a bit of a hard season. And I can't even explain, because not necessarily all of it was really major things. It was just this constant thing of if you had things could go this way or this way, they always went the bad way. And not just necessarily directly in our family, even things that have happened to, our extended family as well. And so it has been a hard burden. You're kind of expecting what's going to happen next. And I messaged my husband, Chris, the other day and said, you are not going to believe what happened now. And he's like, yeah, actually, I do believe it. And I thought to myself, I wasn't very living in the blessings, Chris, if that was your response. Now, I since have found later that there was actually more to the story, and so that wasn't his first thought, there was more to the story. But I was thinking, I'm not going to challenge him on this, but I really need to challenge him on that later, because we need to be living in the blessings. Anyway, last weekend, this is because, I'm superhuman, super everything, but apparently I wasn't. And I never am, but that's all right. Last weekend we were going to Monarto Zoo. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and was thinking about stuff. And all of a sudden I thought, I really hope the lions don't get out while we're waiting for the bus to go into the lion enclosure. This is the thought that came through my mind. And then my reason side said to me, don't be stupid, that's not going to happen. However, knowing your luck at the moment, it probably would. This was my reason, was telling me that. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, the letdowns over the past few years have actually affected me more than I think. Because what was the chances of that actually happening? Like, I understand that Taronga Zoo had lions got out. I get that. But it's not something common that actually happens, that lions get out of their enclosure. And for me to actually think this and then think there was a high possibility of this was totally irrational. But it made me, and this stuff actually came out of nowhere and hit me for a 6, because I didn't realise how much the stuff had affected me until I had this absolutely irrational thought. And it was irrational. And in that moment, I had to decide whether I was going to take that thought on or whether I was actually going to give it to God and go back to sleep. You see, I might have been justified because of all the letdown we had been going through. The feelings might have been okay if you'd kind of known what we were going through. But I actually don't want to live like that. I don't want to live in fear like that, expecting that the bad is always going to happen, living in the bad luck. I needed to let God carry me through the burdens and to live in his abundant joy and not let my situations dictate my feelings and bring fear. Psalm 37:5, commit everything you do to the Lord, trust in him and he will help you. Just because history says that we are going through a hard time doesn't mean that I want to stay there. And I also don't want to be keeping myself in that hard season for longer because I'm not willing to let it go. We all have stuff and we need to let it go. There was one thing that really hit me when I was going through the stuff in the girls' room. And they had all this craft and artwork from last year, which is fine. And so I was wanting them to go through it and decide which parts of it they actually wanted to keep, that they, were really proud of, and which parts could get rid of. And next minute they started going, oh, that's not mine, that's such and such. That's not mine, that's such and such. And they literally had a pile this big of artwork that wasn't even theirs. Now, they hadn't stolen it. And do you know what? They didn't even like it. It was just that they didn't want it to be thrown out. The kid themselves didn't want it, and that's why it had been left at school. And the girls were helping the teachers clean up, and they decided to take it with them. How often do we take on stuff that's not even ours to ever carry? How often does the other people's hurts become our hurts? When we were younger, Mum used to always say this thing to us, that hurting people hurt people. And sometimes we actually need to allow the fact that other people are hurting, and when they say things to us, let's not take it on. Actually, all the time. That we actually need to think the best in what people are saying, understand that not everyone is going like that. Probably 99.999% of the time, people actually aren't mean people. They're actually hurting. And that is, it's not them mean, it's the situation that they are going. And if you then take on their stuff, all you're doing, and I'm not saying, we should be carrying other people's burdens. I'm not talking about that, helping people through. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about letting people's hurts, other people's disappointments, seeing what other people say about you, taking it on and then carrying your weight. Also, I'm talking about what the fears the media stir up, the fears that Facebook stir up, the stuff of making us feel totally inadequate when we look at things, us then taking that stuff, the make-believe imaginary internet world, and believing that that is the way that we should live. That is burdens that we were never, ever, ever meant to carry. Therefore, humble yourself under his mighty hand, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all cares upon him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5, 6 and 7. And as the band gets up to play, I really believe this morning that we need to let go of stuff. And what I want to do, and I'm sorry, the time slipped away from me, I've got some pens down here, and if I could just have some people just hand out a couple of pieces of paper and a pen. And what I want to do this morning is for you guys to actually write down the stuff, and we're going to put it in the bin at the foot of the cross. And the reason we're going to put it in a bin is because we're not going to read them, because we're actually giving it to God. And I want the significance of the bin so that you guys can be really, really real. And that you feel that you can actually share that stuff that has been holding you down. And we're going to worship in this place. And as you feel ready, you can take communion. And we're just going to be free this morning and stand together by letting our stuff, let God carry our burdens. If you need prayer this morning, that's totally fine. You can come down. And you can be as specific as you want. And I want to make it really, really clear. I'm going to grab a bin in a second. These are going to go in the bin, so no one is going to read them. It's between you and God and allowing him to take this stuff this morning. Yeah.